Don't make a sound. The words were barely a breath against her ear. A hand, large and impossibly strong, closed around her wrist and pulled her backward into darkness. Seraphina's pulse spiked as her spine pressed against cold stone. The alcove was narrow, hidden behind a marble pillar, swallowed in shadow. The man who had pulled her into it stood so close she could feel the chill radiating from his chest. Footsteps echoed down the corridor. Heavy boots, palace guards. "Check every room," a voice commanded. "Lord Halvard wants her found before the ceremony ends. The silenced one cannot escape again." Seraphina stopped breathing. The man holding her did not move. His grip on her wrist remained firm but not painful. His body was a wall between her and discovery. Through the shadows, she caught the gleam of pale eyes watching her, assessing, calculating. The footsteps passed, faded, disappeared. Still, neither of them moved. "You're the one they're hunting," he said quietly. It was not a question. Seraphina could not answer. The collar around her throat prevented speech. Even if it did not, she would never dare. Her voice was a weapon she had learned never to use. She nodded once. The man stepped back, and moonlight revealed his face. Sharp jaw, cheekbones like cut glass, hair the color of midnight, eyes so pale gray they were almost silver. She recognized him instantly. Alpha King Kalen of Valdris, the king who could detect any lie, the king who, according to whispers, was slowly dying from a curse no healer could break, and he had just saved her from capture. "You cannot speak?" he murmured, studying her collar. Something shifted in his expression. Not pity. Something that looked almost like relief. "Then you cannot lie to me," he said softly. "How refreshing." Before Seraphina could react, the Alpha King extended his hand. "Come with me. I believe I've just found my queen." 3 hours earlier, Seraphina had been running for her life. The selection ceremony had brought hundreds of noble women to the palace of Valdris, all of them vying for the Alpha King's hand. Carriages clogged the roads. Silk gowns and glittering jewels poured through the gates like a river of ambition. No one noticed the servant girl slipping through the chaos. Seraphina kept her head down. Her threadbare cloak was pulled tight over the stolen servant's uniform. The silver collar remained hidden beneath a high neckline. She only needed to reach the eastern gate. From there, the forest. From there, freedom. 15 years? 15 years locked in Lord Halvard's tower. No windows, no visitors, no voice. He had called her his investment, his weapon. He had told her stories of what her voice had done when she was a child. "You killed an entire village, Seraphina. 37 souls, gone in an instant because you screamed." She had believed him. For 15 years. But 3 days ago, she had overheard him negotiating her sale to a warlord who wanted a voice weapon for his army. That was when she realized the truth. Halvard did not keep her silent to protect the world. He kept her silent to control her. So she ran. The great hall was magnificent. Vaulted ceilings painted with scenes of ancient wolf kings, chandeliers scattering light like fallen stars, hundreds of nobles drinking wine and exchanging gossip. Seraphina wove between them, invisible in her servant's garb. Her eyes stayed fixed on the far corridor. Then she felt it. Eyes on her. She glanced up and froze. On the raised dais, seated on a throne of black iron, was the Alpha King. He was younger than she had expected, late 20s, with the kind of face artists would weep to paint. But there was something hollow about him, something exhausted. He was not looking at the noble women parading before him. He was looking at her. Seraphina dropped her gaze and moved faster. "There she is!" The shout came from behind. She whirled to see 2 guards pointing at her. Behind them stood Lord Halvard himself, fury contorting his features. "Seize her! She's a dangerous criminal. That collar is the only thing keeping her from killing everyone here." Seraphina ran. She did not think. She just moved, feet flying over marble, lungs burning. The guards were faster, gaining ground with every second. A corner, another, a dead end. Serafina skidded to a halt, staring at solid wall. No doors, no windows. The footsteps grew closer. Tears burned in her eyes as she clawed uselessly at the collar. If she could speak, she could stop them. If she could scream. A hand shot out from the shadows and grabbed her wrist. Before she could react, she was pulled sideways into an alcove she had not seen, hidden behind a pillar, swallowed by darkness. "Don't make a sound," a voice breathed against her ear. And that was how she found herself here, pressed against cold stone, the Alpha King's hand around her wrist. When the guards had passed, the king released her and stepped back. "The silenced one," he said. "I've heard of your kind. Your voice can shatter stone, break minds." He paused. "Is that true?" Serafina raised her hand and made a gesture she had learned long ago. One that meant, "I don't know." Something flickered in his wintry eyes. Curiosity. "You don't know," he repeated slowly. "Because you've never been allowed to speak." She nodded. "That man, Halvard, he claims to be your guardian." Serafina shook her head vehemently. She raised her wrists, pressed them together as if bound, mimicked the motion of a cage. "Your captor," the king said quietly. "He kept you prisoner." "Yes." The king's jaw tightened. "He's told the court you're a murderer, that you killed a village when you were a child." Serafina pressed her hand over her heart and shook her head desperately. "I didn't. I wouldn't." The king watched her silent plea. "I know you're telling the truth," he said. "I can always tell." He stepped closer. "You haven't lied to me once. You can't. And that makes you more valuable than every noble woman in that hall." Serafina stared at him, uncomprehending. "I need a queen," he continued. "Not for love, for survival." Something raw surfaced beneath his guarded exterior. Something desperate. "Every person in this palace lies to me. Every smile hides a scheme. I sense it all. And it's killing me." He lifted his hand, and she saw the slight tremor in his fingers. "But you," he breathed. "You cannot lie. When I'm near you, the noise stops. The poison stops. You are silence. You are peace." Serafina's chest tightened. "Marry me," the Alpha King said. "Become my queen. I will never ask you to speak. I will protect you from Halvard, from anyone who would hunt you. You will be safe." She thought of the tower with no windows, of being sold as a weapon, of Halvard's cold eyes. She lifted her trembling hand and placed it in his. The king's fingers closed around hers. Cool, but steady. "Then it's settled," he said. "Let's inform the court that the selection ceremony is over." The great hall fell silent when the Alpha King entered with a servant girl at his side. Serafina kept her head down. She was acutely aware of every eye turning toward her. She was still wearing the stolen uniform. Her hair was disheveled. The collar gleamed silver against her throat. She looked nothing like a queen. Yet the king walked beside her as if she were already crowned. His hand rested at the small of her back, guiding her through the parting crowd. "The selection ceremony is concluded," he announced. "I have chosen my queen." Gasps, murmurs, scattered sounds of outrage. "Your Majesty, this is highly irregular," a court advisor sputtered. "Protocol demands you choose from among the noble families." "She has not lied to me," the king interrupted. "Which is more than I can say for you, Lord Theron." The advisor went pale and stepped back. Then, cutting through the silence like a blade, came a voice Serafina knew too well. "I object." Lord Halvard strode forward, his face a mask of false concern. "Your Majesty, you've been deceived. That woman is my ward, a dangerous creature whose voice can kill. She escaped my custody 3 days ago." The king did not flinch. Your ward, he repeated calmly. Or your prisoner. Halvard's eye twitched. I don't understand. You kept her locked in a tower for 15 years. You were selling her to Lord Mathis of the Eastern Reaches when she escaped. Halvard's face went white as parchment. How did you— I know because I can always tell when someone is lying. The king stepped closer. And you have not spoken a single truth since you opened your mouth. Silence. My bride and I will be married tomorrow at sunset, the king continued. Any attempt to approach her will be considered treason. He extended his hand to Serafina. She took it, her fingers unsteady. Come, he said quietly, let's leave them to their gossip. The king's chambers were larger than Halvard's entire estate. Serafina stood overwhelmed by the richness surrounding her. Velvet curtains, gilded mirrors, a fireplace blazing with warmth that seemed to do nothing to chase the winter cold from the king's skin. You're safe here, he said. Halvard cannot touch you. He moved to a writing desk and returned with paper and quill. Write. Ask me anything. Serafina picked up the quill. Why me? I told you. You cannot lie. Many people cannot lie. You could find others. Others would still speak? He set down his wineglass, untouched. Every word spoken in my presence, I sense its truth or falsehood. Lies burn. And everyone lies. He met her eyes. Except you. Your silence is relief. The first peace I've known in years. What is killing you? The king went still. Then, slowly, he pushed up his sleeve. Dark veins spiderweb beneath his skin, black as ink, spreading from wrist toward elbow. My family's curse, he said quietly. The kings of Valdris can sense lies. But every lie spoken in our presence poisons us slowly. Serafina's hand flew to her mouth. My father lasted until 43, his father until 39. His voice was flat. I'm 27. I have perhaps 5 years left. Maybe less, unless I'm exposed to concentrated deception. Then the poison accelerates. Is there no cure? None. All I can do is minimize exposure. He lowered his sleeve. With you beside me, perhaps I'll have a few years of peace before the end. You deserve more than silence. The king read her words. Something cracked in his expression. Something raw and surprised. No one has ever thought so, he said quietly. A knock interrupted them. A servant entered, bowing. Your Majesty. Lord Halvard requests an audience. He says you don't know what she really is. The king's expression went cold. Have him removed, and inform the court that Lord Halvard is no longer welcome in the palace. The servant fled. Serafina wrote, He won't stop. He won't give up easily. Let him try. The king's eyes blazed with something fierce, something protective. Anyone who threatens you threatens the crown. He stepped closer. Tomorrow, you become my queen. And once you do, not even Halvard will be able to touch you. The wedding was nothing like the grand affair the court had expected. No thousands of guests, no elaborate decorations, just a private ceremony in the palace's oldest chapel, only a handful of witnesses. Serafina stood at the altar in a gown of deep silver. The collar at her throat had been polished until it gleamed, transformed from a mark of captivity into something resembling jewelry. Almost. The sun was setting on her second day in the palace when the priestess spoke the ancient vows. The king repeated them in a steady voice. I take you as my mate, my queen, my partner in all things. I vow to protect you until my last breath. Then it was Serafina's turn. The priestess hesitated. Your Majesty, the bride must speak. She will write them. Serafina held up the parchment she had prepared. I take you as my mate, my king, my partner in all things. I vow to remain beside you, to offer you peace, to give you truth without words, until my last breath. The priestess's voice wavered as she read aloud. By the power of the old gods, she announced. "I declare you bound, husband and wife, king and queen." It was done. That night, Kaelin appeared at her chamber door with a strip of black silk in his hand. "A blindfold," he said quietly. "If you're worried I might see you without the collar, I won't touch you unless you want me to." The thoughtfulness made her throat tight. They settled into bed together, a careful distance between them. For a long moment, silence stretched. "Can I ask you something?" Kaelin said suddenly. Serafina turned toward him. In the dim firelight, she could just make out his profile. "I told you about my curse, but I didn't tell you why I hide it." He paused. "Lord Theron and the others know I'm dying, but not how quickly. If they did, the vultures would circle." She listened, barely breathing. "You're the first person I've trusted with the full truth," he continued. "Perhaps ever." She reached across and found his hand in the darkness. His skin was shockingly cold, like touching ice, but she held on. "You should know," he said quietly. "I didn't choose you only because you can't lie. I chose you because I see someone who understands what it means to be trapped, to be seen as a weapon instead of a person." Her chest ached. "I see you," he said, "the person beneath the collar." In the darkness, Serafina shifted closer. She lifted his cold hand and pressed it against her warm cheek. Then she leaned forward and kissed his forehead. Gentle, silent, true. The king went completely still. "Serafina," he breathed. She smiled and settled back, still holding his hand. They fell asleep like that, fingers intertwined. Serafina woke to an empty bed. Then she heard it. Coughing from the bathing chamber. Harsh, racking coughs. She moved silently to the door and peered through. Kaelin stood hunched over the basin, shirtless. In the morning light, she saw everything. The black veins had spread overnight. They covered most of his torso, climbing his neck, creeping down his arms. His skin was pale as death. Then he pulled his hand from his mouth. It was covered in black blood. Their eyes met in the mirror. "How much time?" she wrote frantically on the fogged glass. "How much time do you really have?" His mask crumbled. "Weeks," he said hoarsely. "Maybe less. The ceremony yesterday, surrounded by so many lies, it accelerated things." His voice broke. "I needed to secure your position before you die." Serafina grabbed his arm and pulled him back to the bedroom. She grabbed her slate and scrawled frantically. There must be something. Some cure. Some magic. "I've searched for years. You searched alone. You search with me now." The king stared at her words. "Why do you care?" he asked, voice cracking. "You barely know me. You saved me. You believed me. You saw me." She paused, then added, "Now I will save you. Whatever it takes." The king's composure shattered. He pulled her into his arms, trembling. "I don't deserve you," he whispered. She held him tighter, making a silent vow. She would find a way to save him, even if it meant confronting the secret she had spent her entire life hiding from. Her voice. The palace library held secrets older than the kingdom itself. Serafina spent every waking hour there, searching through ancient texts while Kaelin grew weaker. Each night she held him while tremors racked his body. She pressed her warmth against his frost-laden skin. She found the curse's origins in a crumbling chronicle. The Valdris curse was not always a curse. King Aldrich I considered it a blessing until he sought a witch to strengthen it. The witch warned him, "Absolute power demands absolute price." Every lie spoken in the presence of a Valdris king would steal a piece of life. The more lies, the faster the death. There is no cure. Serafina refused to accept those words. She kept searching until she found scattered references to silenced ones. The oldest accounts tell a different story. They speak of voices that could heal wounds, cleanse poison, speak truth so pure it burned away all falsehood. In ancient times, silenced ones were revered as holy, healers, not weapons. It was only later, when fearful rulers recognized the threat such power posed, that silenced ones began to be collared. Their true nature was hidden. Replaced with stories of destruction, the collars do not protect the world from silenced ones. They protect those in power from being healed. Serafina read the passage 3 times. Her hands were shaking. Healers, not destroyers. Had Halvard lied about everything? She needed to know the truth. Lord Halvard had taken rooms at an inn near the eastern gate. Serafina went to confront him alone. His door was unguarded, arrogant, as always. She pushed it open without knocking. Halvard looked up from his desk. His expression shifted from surprise to anger, then to cold calculation. "The little monster visits," he said. "How unwise." She pulled out her slate. "Tell me the truth about the village." Halvard's smile faltered. "What? 37 souls. You said I killed them. Tell me how." "You know how. You screamed and they died." "How did they die? Describe it." She watched his face carefully, the slight twitch at his eye, the way his gaze shifted left. He was lying. They didn't die. Did they? "You don't understand what you're asking." His voice lost its smoothness. What your voice could do to the balance of power. The door burst open behind her. Guards seized her arms, a knife pressed against her throat. "I told you this was unwise," Halvard hissed. "You came to me. Now you'll come with me quietly, or I'll slit your throat." They dragged her toward a back entrance. "Lord Mathis is still interested in acquiring a voice weapon," Halvard continued. "The scandal will destroy Kalin. A king whose queen was stolen from under his nose? When the curse finishes him, the throne will be ripe for taking." They threw her into a covered carriage. Bound, gagged, cargo. The carriage lurched into motion. Serafina realized, with horrible clarity, that she was alone. By the time anyone noticed her missing, she could be miles away. Unless she did something impossible. Her hands were bound. She could not reach the collar's clasp, but she could feel something beneath it. Something dormant for 15 years. Power. Her voice wanted to be free. It pulsed inside her, pressing against the collar's constraints. What if the collar isn't strong enough anymore? What if 15 years of suppressed power have built up pressure that ancient magic cannot contain? It was a massive risk. If Halvard was right about her voice being destructive, she could kill everyone. But if he was lying? She thought of Kalin, his gentle hands and guarded heart, the way he looked at her like she was precious. She would not let him die alone. Serafina drew in a deep breath. Then she screamed. The sound that emerged from her throat was unlike anything she had ever heard. It started low, a vibration building from deep in her chest. The collar glowed white-hot against her skin. Burning, searing. She screamed harder. The collar shattered. Pieces of silver flew outward, and Serafina's voice exploded free. It was not destruction. It was light. Golden and warm and alive, the sound poured out of her. It washed over the guards. They dropped their weapons. Their faces went slack with sudden peace. It washed over Halvard. He staggered backward, hands flying to his head, and he screamed. Not in pain. In truth. "I didn't kill them!" he shrieked, clawing at his face. "The village! You didn't kill anyone! You healed them!" Serafina's voice kept pouring out, forcing truth from his lips. "A plague had swept through, killing dozens. You healed every last one with a single cry." Tears streamed down his face. "But if people knew what you could do, you would be too powerful, uncontrollable. So I told everyone you were a destroyer. I collared you, kept you mine." Her voice finally faded. She stood in the wrecked carriage, collar destroyed, staring at the man who had stolen her life with a lie. She had never killed anyone. Her voice was a gift, A healing gift. Serafina stepped over his broken form and climbed out of the carriage. She had somewhere to be. The streets blurred as she ran. People stared at the wild-eyed woman with no collar, but she did not stop. She did not slow. Not until the palace gates rose before her. The palace was in chaos when she arrived. She found Kaelin in the throne room, surrounded by advisors, issuing frantic orders. Kaelin. The single word, soft and clear, cut through everything. Every head turned. Every voice fell silent. Serafina stood in the doorway. For the first time in her life, she had spoken a word. Kaelin stared at her. The collar. It's gone. Halvard took me, but I escaped. She walked toward him. And I learned the truth. My voice doesn't destroy. It heals. It forces truth. It burns away lies. She stopped directly in front of him. I think it might save you. His eyes widened. What? The curse feeds on lies. My voice is pure truth. It purifies. She cupped his face in her hands. Let me try. Serafina, we don't know the risk. Then I'll die trying. Her voice was fierce. I won't watch you fade away. I won't stand silent while the man I love is murdered by a curse he never deserved. The words hung in the air. The man I love. You love me? He whispered. Yes. No hesitation. I love you, Kaelin of Valdres. I love your kindness and your pain and the way you hold me like I'm precious. Her voice wavered. I will not let you die. His composure shattered. I love you too, he breathed. I tried not to. But it's you. It's always been you. She kissed him once, fierce and quick. Then let me try. Fear flickered in his eyes, but he nodded. Save me or don't, he whispered. But whatever happens, know that you already have. They cleared the throne room. Kaelin removed his shirt, revealing the full horror. Black veins covered his entire torso, climbing his neck, wrapping around him like chains of shadow. Serafina placed both hands on his chest. I don't know exactly what I'm doing, she admitted. Trust yourself, Kaelin said. The way I trust you. She closed her eyes. She thought about truth, about healing, about burning away everything false. She thought about love, and she began to sing. It was not a song she knew. Something older, something primal, pouring from the deepest part of her being like liquid gold. The sound filled the throne room, filled the palace, filled the city. People in the streets stopped and looked up. Tears streamed down their faces. Beneath her hands, the black veins began to glow. Kaelin gasped, his body arched. She felt the curse fighting back, but she did not stop. She sang louder, gave everything she had. The black veins turned white, then gold. Then they dissolved, burning away like shadows confronted by sunlight. Kaelin screamed. Not in pain, in release. Centuries of poison, generations of absorbed lies, the entire weight of the curse, all of it burned away. She sang until her throat was raw, until her vision blurred, until she felt herself falling. Warm arms caught her. She opened her eyes to see Kaelin's face above her. His skin was warm. His cheeks had color. His eyes shone with wonder. Serafina, he breathed. Then he was kissing her, deeply, desperately. She could feel the heat of him, the life in him, the heart that now beat strong against her own. She had done it. She had saved him. The kingdom of Valdres had never seen celebrations like the ones that followed. Word spread quickly. The Alpha King's curse was broken. The mysterious queen had healed what generations of scholars deemed unhealable. The Valdres bloodline would continue, free from the shadow of poison. Lord Halvard was arrested. His confession, forced by Serafina's voice, was repeated before the royal court. Every lie he had told, every crime he had committed, all of it laid bare. He would spend his remaining days in a cell. 3 weeks after the curse was broken, Seraphina stood on the balcony of the royal chambers, watching the sunset. Behind her, Kaelin moved around the room with the easy energy of a man finally, truly alive. He wrapped his arms around her waist. His skin was warm now, always warm. "You're quiet," he said against her hair. "I'm thinking about the village," she said. "Halvard confessed I healed them, but I never learned what happened after." Kaelin's arms tightened. "I've been looking into that." He paused. "The village is called Thornhaven. It still exists. The plague you healed them from was called the Whispering Death." Her breath caught. "My parents? They were travelers, healers. They found you in an orphanage, adopted you. When Thornhaven was dying, they brought you there hoping you could help." His voice softened. "When Halvard heard about the miracle, he came to investigate. Your parents tried to protect you." "What happened to them?" Pain crossed his face. "They didn't survive the attempt." Tears spilled down her cheeks. Parents she had never known. Parents who had loved her, died for her. "Halvard took you after," Kaelin continued gently. "You were only 4. He told you your voice killed the villagers because he knew you wouldn't remember." Seraphina leaned into his chest, weeping for the family she had never known. When her tears slowed, Kaelin pressed a kiss to her head. "There's more. The villagers never forgot what you did. They've been searching for you ever since." He paused. "When word reached them about the queen who broke the curse, they sent a delegation. They arrive tomorrow." She pulled back, staring at him. "What?" "They want to thank you. To tell you the truth themselves." His eyes glistened. "And to welcome you home." Home. She had never had one. Never had a place where she was wanted. But now she did. She had Kaelin. She had a kingdom, learning to see her as queen rather than monster. And she had a village of people who remembered her as their savior. "I love you," she said. Kaelin smiled. "I love you too. No curse could have prevented that." He kissed her, soft and full of promise. She felt something stir inside her, a flutter, faint but unmistakable. She would tell him tomorrow, after the delegation arrived, after everything settled. For now, she simply held him. 1 year later, Queen Seraphina stood before thousands. Her voice carried across the great square. "Today, we dedicate this academy to all those who have been told they are dangerous, to those who have been silenced, contained, controlled." King Kaelin stood beside her, pride shining in his eyes. On her other side, a delegation from Thornhaven stood in places of honor. In her arms, their son, born 9 months after the curse was broken and now 3 months old, slept peacefully. A child who would inherit no curse, a child born into love and light. "This academy will teach them the truth," Seraphina continued, "that their voices, their powers, their very existence are not curses. They are blessings to be shared with the world." She paused, looking out at the crowd. "My voice was taken from me for 15 years. I was taught to see myself as a monster. But I learned that voices like mine are meant to heal, to speak truth, to bring light into darkness." She lifted her chin. "So speak," she said. "Use your gifts. Be the miracle you were always meant to be." The crowd erupted into cheers, and Seraphina, once a silent prisoner with no name and no hope, smiled. She had found her voice, and she would never be silent again.